Again, because we're in the evening and we are in a meditation class, how to meditate. So we're going to spend the first half hour trying to do some meditation. Again, more of the sort of mindfulness, awareness around the breathing, that type of meditation. We'll move on to something a little bit different next week, but we're still going to stick with this kind of placement, concentration style meditation, which some of you are quite familiar with anyway, and we understand that, there's an importance to do that, certainly for settling the mind. So we'll just do one more week of sort of focusing on that type of meditation more, and then we'll move into a couple of other types of meditation in the next coming week. So as we see here, we have this kind of visualization, this nice image of someone in meditation. And for purposes of the 9-round breathing, if you can, and you feel a propensity for visualization, you don't even have to feel the channels here. You don't have to see the channels necessarily. For most of us, they won't be particularly luminous and bright, but it's more about just feeling that subtle energies, getting in touch with the sort of subtle energies, the flowing, the winds and the minds in the body. We have many, many channels. I think it's about 72,000, believe it or not, channels in our, what we call subtle body. And that's kind of more what we try to meditate with, mental consciousness, subtle body energies. So here we want to, try and at least start to feel, some feeling of the mental consciousness, what's going on inside beyond the gross body. That's what we're trying to awaken up here. So most important is to sort of feel it, to get this central place where our mind can kind of, wake up a little bit, feel more vital for practice. So one of the preliminaries for meditation can be doing 9-round breathing. As I said, yoga, qigong, some sort of movement, which includes sort of breath and movement, can be very helpful for just sort of shifting stale wind, mind, energy in the body. So try we get ourselves into a comfortable position for meditation. We're going to just go through and touch each of the points in the posture that we need to be aware of, and try to bring the body and mind into balance by touching each of these places in the body where mind and awareness, breath and awareness. Just again, to kind of bring the place of meditation, our body, so our body holds the mind or the consciousness, the mental continuum. So if the body is settled and stable, then that will help to bring settledness, stability, clarity to the mind. They support each other. There's a relationship going on with both at this level of practice that we're at. So good at the beginning to do what we call a mental scan of the body and the points in the posture. So let's just take a couple of breaths, just breathing in deeply, whatever we feel we need to do, and exhaling. Just exhaling. It can be through the nose and the mouth. A couple of breaths in. Just let go of any stale energy. We need to do that after most of us having a busy day. And then just for a couple of breaths, just be with the whole body for a minute. Get a sense of our whole body, where it is, where it's seated. Perhaps on the cushion, on the chair. Let's get a whole feeling in the body as we breathe in and breathe out. Then we bring the awareness up to the crown. Again, just breathing normally, inhaling, exhaling. And again, as we said last week, the crown is important. It needs to be pointing kind of up toward the sky, like there's a string held at the crown of the head. Someone's holding a string up like a puppet, like as if we were on a puppet string. So that in that way, the chin starts to slightly tuck under, when we're held like a string like that, feeling that sort of invisible string. That string could also be connected to that central channel, you know, that blue one, as we see in the image that goes right down just in front of the spine. So it helps to hold up the spine, you know. So we're bringing the crown up, just bringing a little bit more, as I say, vitality to the spine. Not pushing the spine up, but just feeling it can be straight, you know, straight. And the shoulders start to go back a little bit. So the chest's open. And check in with the eyes for a couple of breaths, just softening the eyes. And for most of us as beginners, we need to keep the eyes closed. So breathing in, softening the brow and the eyes. Softening the mouth and the jaw, the tongue on top of the palate. A breath awareness streaming down the neck and the shoulders. Again, shoulders back. Chest open, so we can breathe deeply and slowly through the chest. And move down, again, a couple of breaths down the back of the body, just checking up on the lower back, you know, the spine again, just a stream of energy feeling going down the spine. Softening the tummy area at the front of the body. Deep breath in and release and relax the skin at the stomach, all through the tissue, the muscle. Just allow it to open and relax. It's often where we hold a lot of tension. And a few breaths around the hips. Being with the sensation of the buttocks on the cushion or seat for a couple of breaths. Generally, our hands are in this mudra of right hand on top of the, seated on top of the left hand, and the two thumbs are touching. So again, they usually touch around the bottom of these channels here. There's a sort of energy area in the body. So imagine, just as we see in the image here, our body, you know, starts to dissolve. The sort of solidity of the body kind of dissolves, and what appears to us is this more like balloon-like body. We've got what we call a hollow body. It's kind of light and spacious. We still have a skin, but it's like the skin of a balloon or a bubble, you know, very light, but it holds us together, you know, so we don't float away. But we have a less kind of solid appearance of our body. And within the body appear these, or we start to feel these three channels. The central channel, blue light, made of blue light, about the thickness of a bamboo stick. It's very soft and flexible, but it's kind of shoots up like an arrow through the centre body, around the area of the spine, up through our crown. Goes down to about 4 finger widths below the navel. Then on the right side, the lower end fitting into that blue central channel, and then like the umbrella, you know, moving round and going up the side of the central channel. And going up as it is in the image, and like the top of an umbrella goes down to the nostril, the right nostril. And then the white channel, the left channel's on the left side, again alongside the blue central channel, and hooking up like the top of an umbrella to the left nostril. So we're simply going to clear these three channels. The clearer these channels are, the more impact it has on our mind. Wind and mind are conjoined. It's not just mental consciousness, but there's a subtle wind that is the mount of the mind. So that as we purify the winds, the mind clarifies. Or as we purify the mind, the kind of stress, anxiety, or the lung energy in the body, air energy subsides. So they both help and support each other. So here we're clearing the wind, so it kind of clears the air of the mind, the airs of the dust, the kind of fogginess of the mind. So we start by clearing putting our hands on our right nostril, breathing in. Imagine the air pushes down into the opposite channel as we exhale through the right side, and it clears that right channel. So slow, deep breaths on each side for 3. So we do 3 on this side, moving the first finger from one nostril to the next, inhaling through the left, exhaling through the right. Opposite side, taking the first finger of the right hand, blocking off the left nostril, inhaling through the right, and exhaling through the left, clearing the white channel. Then we clear the central channel, inhaling through, imagine as we inhale it, go through down both channels and into the central channel. It sort of dissolves in there, the breath. We still exhale, but the sort of vital energy dissolves into that central channel. Do 3 times. So take a note, just note your mind. Is there a slight difference in the sort of quietness of the mind, the spaciousness of the mind after that exercise? Just be with that for a moment. And in that quiet space, if we ask ourselves, what's the purpose of your life? Is there something clear that comes up? Maybe a few things pop up. Just be with that for a moment, check that out. Allow it to arise, like bubbles coming out of water. Just sort of appears to our mind, what's motivating us, what do we feel in a deep way is the purpose of our life. So I think fundamentally we can all agree. And as it says in the teaching of the Buddha, that like myself, well, certainly the purpose of my life is to be happy. Every being wants happiness. Every being, even ants, spiders, all the animals, they're spirit beings. Everybody is striving for this fundamental happiness. So I think for sure if we ask ourselves that's what comes up. If we go into a deeper place, there's a motivating factor of wanting happiness. But mostly outside of, spiritual teachings, what we discover, the temporary objects, the senses, what we do in our daily life, that just brings about a temporary sense of satisfaction. They don't have the power to bring everlasting peace and happiness. Anything that we engage through the senses at this level, food, clothing, shelter, job, friends, family. There's a sort of up and down nature and also a unstable nature as to whether they're going to bring us happiness or not. It's not quite sure. So it doesn't mean that we abandon these things altogether, but we also have to seek kind of something more deep inside us. The key to everlasting peace and happiness is a mental experience. It's a development of the heart and mind. So as we discovered in module 1, the mind has potential to generate its own happiness, to generate infinite and deep everlasting satisfaction. To generate these two qualities, infinite peace, infinite wisdom that recognizes its true nature, and infinite sort of love, kindness, compassion, sensitivity to all beings. So we're in these courses, we're trying to, gradually develop that potential in our mind, these potentials. Plant seeds for the mind to experience a greater happiness than we can ever get through sensual objects. That's possible. But we need to learn how to do it. So, of course, the place is called full enlightenment, full awakening. So we always motivate to gradually develop, our full potential, enlightenment in our mind for all sentient beings. But also step by step, discovering the potential of our nature, that nature that we have, slowly unfolding it. That's the kind of what we're trying to do in meditation, step by step. So one of the steps is being able to settle the mind in an object. It's a type of meditation to support other types of meditation. So it's called concentration or placement. So as we did last week, Let's just bring our awareness to the breath, the tip of the nostrils, the breath going out at the tip of the nostrils. So we're going to use this as our object of placement, concentration. So for the next 5 minutes, with some sort of determination, will, we think I'm going to just be with the breath, that flowing of the breath at the tip of the nostrils, going in and out, being with the sensation. It can be easier to be with the sensation than the actual breath because it's more grounding. So we watch at the tip as the breath's going in and out, feeling, being with the feeling of that sensation. That can be the object. So let's do this for 5 minutes, just trying to train a little bit in stabilizing the mind on one object. We'll do for 5 minutes. So just take your mind off, just allow your mind to relax a little bit. Imagine we're not finished yet, but we're just loosening a little bit the object from the object, loosening the mind for the object. And whatever you did in that meditation, good enough. Maybe you don't have to add anything on about how good or bad it was. We're just training a little bit, practicing a little bit in concentration. That's it, you know. So just to finish today, another part we're going to do, another few minutes, is bringing to mind the object of Shakyamuni Buddha, our kind founder. You know, all these meditations, these days we have, you know, the traditional teachings of the Buddha, and there's also so many secular teachings on mindfulness. So this all came through the enlightened quality of Shakyamuni Buddha, through his great wisdom, you know, to benefit many, many beings, you know, to see the mind of all beings, see their different capacities. So even this practice, this class, you know, all comes for the kindness of Shakyamuni Buddha, what he taught over 2,500 years ago. So it's important as we develop in our practice, especially if we start to get deeper into Buddhist practice, to feel this connection and the kindness of Shakyamuni Buddha. Not just guiding us from back then, but guiding us in this very moment. You know, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas still there and present, guiding us. So try to feel or imagine just spontaneously arising in the vast open blue sky. So again, it's a bit more spacious meditation. The appearance of Shakyamuni Buddha, seated on this sort of very soft, multicolored lotus, as you've seen the image. It's showing his quality of renunciation, you know, his mind opening up from suffering, from neurosis, for dissatisfaction. That's the kind of opening the mind into the spiritual path, you know, into discovering a deeper inner peace and happiness. Top of that, there's a beautiful moon cushion here. Again, displaying or embodying the mind of bodhicitta that embraces, like the moon, all living beings, like this moon-like light, embracing me, and embracing all beings, my family, friends, everyone, without discrimination, you know, without partiality. We try and feel the vibrance of these the light lotus, the light lotus made of light, about the level of our brow, maybe about a body length away, situated in this vast sky, the background of a vast sky. And then his whole golden holy body, you know, starts to appear, wearing the robes of a monk, saffron robes, holding this begging bowl filled with the nectar. So the nectar shows the Dharma, you know, that gives a deep satisfaction, everlasting peace and happiness. The food or medicine of the Dharma. And he has a very beautiful face, you know, very radiant, and gazing single-pointedly on me, but simultaneously on all beings. Try to feel the embrace of the Buddha as we would the sun, you know, that embraces and covers the whole earth, you know. Everything grows due to the quality, the heat, the kindness, the warmth of the sun, you know, the light of the sun. So our path grows in dependence, actually, on the blessings of the Buddhas. It's a very important point, a very important kind of thing that we need to feel on our spiritual path. You know, we need to develop this feeling of receiving blessings, being under the protection and guidance of the Buddha and spiritual teachers. We need to feel that care. And then from the heart of Shakyamuni Buddha starts to flow golden nectar, you know, again, like blessing us. So some of us had the good fortune to be around His Eminence Ling Rinpoche when he was here. And, you know, when we were around him, when we're around great holy beings, we feel the presence of their radiance, you know. It kind of lifts up our mind. It opens our mind and it gives us energy. gives some sort of confidence just when we're around them, you know. So we feel like that when we see the Buddha. It's like, wow, you know, and it kind of just wakes us up. Just the presence of the Buddha. That's what holy beings do, you know, they wake us up in that instant just by seeing them. And then from their being is always coming blessings, you know, always coming light, filling us up through our crown and just inspiring and invigorating our mind, you know, blessing it so that we can understand more deeply the teachings. We can embody, feel, start to realize the teachings in our heart and mind. So that's what the presence of the Buddha does. That's what the power of mantra does. So we're just going to say a few mantras, visualizing light and nectar. We'll do it together. Just filling our whole being and giving that vibrance to the mind. Tayada mune mune maha mune soha. 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 So spending each one is just a few minutes here now, meditating on the feeling of the mantra, the effect to our body and mind. And whatever that is, just doing single mind, a little bit concentration again, placement on that space that perhaps it created for thoughts, you know, for this concrete sense of self. Whatever it is, can we just be with that for a few minutes? The mantra's awake, it starts to awaken our deeper nature. So let's see if we can just touch base with that. Use that as our object for the next 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, so let's come out of our meditation. So next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about mantra and the power of mantra. But this week, I wanted to go a bit more into let's see, just move, not on the right slide yet. Let me just move into the right. We did a lot of this last week. So we are now on this one. So just going over again, some of you are very familiar with this. So a lot of this this module is very much about just going over again the ABCs of meditation. Is there a question there? Let me see in the chat. What language are the mantras? The mantras are in Sanskrit. Gus and I will talk about that a little bit more next week. Otherwise, that could go on for a while. But right now, yeah, they're not in Tibetan. They stay in the original language that the Buddha taught them in for some reasons, which we'll talk about a bit more next week. So anyway, for our meditation session, for those of you who already have one, then this is just a reminder. For those of you who are still developing a regular meditation session or sessions, so say Terry's saying she's doing one twice a day, which is wonderful. So ideally, we do a session in the morning, and if we can, we try and do something in the evening again, you know, just to finish the day and sort of dedicate for the day. So that's ideal if we can do that, but at least to try and do something once a day. So as we've been doing here, you know, as I just guided us through, preparation is breathing or 9-round breathing. So breathing, I did send some handouts on different types of breathing meditations. Breathing through you know, we can breathe in and breathe out, breathe in light, breathe out just mental distraction, disturbances. We can breathe in the blessings, particularly Buddha, Bodhisattva, that we might feel a connection with, Tara, Chenrezig, or Shakyamuni Buddha, and again, breathing out dark energy, or we can simply use the breath and count, you know, in inhalation and exhalation counts as 1, and we count up to 10, and we maybe do this a couple of times in the morning just to settle the mind. Or we can do longer if we're trying to do a little bit more placement, but generally just to start, even if we're doing placement, we sort of get the mind just ready. Because even before we start our placement meditation, it's, you know, motivations, it's very, very important, you know, how we kind of guide our practice. What's the motivating factor? Trying to tune in with that. So as I mentioned, I don't know how well, but I think I got a bit wordy, sorry, in our motivation today. But generally speaking, what we want to do is we do have this innate wish for happiness. We absolutely have it, you know, and we should have it. I mean, why not? You know, everybody has this innate wish for happiness, you know, and the more we connect with that, the more we start to see actually how we're trying to find happiness isn't always in the right direction, you know, and that's what guides us to a spiritual path or other answers, other places, because we're seeing that how our lives going right now isn't in the path to full happiness, and that's what I need. We all need that, you know, so always connecting with that on a daily basis, our fundamental wish for happiness, is what we then want to build on. We want to build on that and start to see, well, when I develop this meditation and that meditation and this practice and through my day, is that building this innate happiness that's there already? Is it opening that up? You know, so of course, our motivation is about absolutely until we discover for ourselves inner peace and happiness and all these higher qualities of bodhicitta and emptiness, there's no way we can properly benefit others. But as Lama Yeshe said, if we have that motivation in the beginning, yeah, I want to work through this stuff, and that, you know, my motivation is I want to be happy, but I've got a lot of anger, I've got a lot of pride. That's good. We need to recognize what we're working on. But either way, in the morning, just dedicating or motivating that may my meditation benefit others, you know, may be of the highest benefit to myself and all beings, just holding that bodhicitta as the essential ingredient, just planting that seed every time you meditate. Maybe I'm not going to benefit others right now. I mean, someone who wants to be a doctor, yeah, most people go into that kind of profession, nurse, doctor, vet, you know, these kinds of things where we want to help others. Their motivation is to benefit, but they're not qualified in the beginning. Hello? You know, we want to help, but if they go in before they've got all the qualifications, it's going to be useless, you know. So it's the same, you know. The Buddha was the doctor. He was the highest, certainly, you know, a great saint, we can say, you know, and he discovered all the methods to achieve inner lasting peace and happiness. He discovered all the ingredients, all the methods, all the wherewithal, you know, but he didn't start with all that. He was like us. You know, he started as an ordinary guy some eons ago and he built up. But every time when you read the past life stories of the Buddha, There's many, you know, where he said, I'm going to do this virtuous action, I'm going to save this being, I'm going to, you know, practice patience here, but I dedicate it to full enlightenment. So I can enlighten all sentient beings. He always had this kind of vast motivation. So like a doctor, you know, someone who goes to study, even if they don't sit down and meditate every day, I think their motivating factor is that they want to help others. Yeah. I don't think you go into that profession. Whether you stay in the profession with that motivation is another fact, you know, even politicians, I think they start, a lot of them, with the motivation that they want to help others, but whether that stays as they go in there, because the mind gets afflicted with so many such politics, you know, and maybe more mundane affairs. But I think from the baseline, a lot of people go into these professions because they want to help others. So we're going into the profession and meditating, we're going into the practice with this wish to really get enlightened and benefit sentient beings. That's the bigger goal, but we need to work on the small goals bit by bit, you know, step by step, and be aware of what our small goals are. So the better we get our meditation and practice, we'll be very aware of the immediate things we need to work on, with alongside the vast motivation of want to benefit others. You know, for holy being, as I said, the meditation, isn't it? What's the definition of meditation? Anyone remember from last week? What that word gom, what does it mean? Anyone want to share? Gom. Anyone remember what gom means? So that's a Tibetan word for meditation. And it means
Arbitrate.
Yes, yes, very good, Jay. Who was that? I'm trying to see if I can see
It's
it.
me.
Okay, thank you. So it means habituate or become familiar. So, you know, every day we think about all sentient beings, and then we work it alongside, we need to work on this, that, and the next thing. But the mind becomes familiar, and, you know, without any effort, you start to move into bodhicitta as you develop more and more in your practice, you know. There's some good virtues I think all of us have now that are already effortless. Some people practice patience very effortlessly. You know, they don't, it doesn't take it takes a lot for them to get upset, you know. I'm sure we all know someone like that. And that's incredible. Why? Because they practiced patience in their past life. That's what the Buddhists would say. They're familiar with working on their anger and practicing patience. So that comes through. Some people are very, very kind, you know, and be Buddhists, non-Buddhists, you know, because they've been, you know, we'd say we created familiarity with that in our past life. And so we also have attributes, and it's important to recognise without a sense of pride, but it gives us self-confidence to feel, well, I'm quite good at that, but maybe I'm not so good at something else, you know. I'm quite good with patience, but maybe I've got, you know, sometimes I get jealous a lot, you know. Or so it's just, you know, without beating ourselves up, but being aware of what we need to work on a little bit, and to remove our obstacles to what we call, you know, bodhicitta, this great enlightened mind that can benefit all beings. So motivation is really important to create the seed for bodhicitta all the time. Then the other structure of the meditation is what we're actually going to meditate on. So I would say in this session, we could say our actual meditation was doing some concentration, placement. And then after that, we did a little bit of, you know, visualization and mantra. And again, we just spent a few minutes at the end and looking at the sort of nature, what mantra does, or we could say a little bit nature of the mind, you know, just looking at how mantra, or how, you know, what's going on with our mind when we do a little practice, you know, what's its nature. And then dedication. So I didn't dedicate at the end of this meditation, because we're going to dedicate at the end of the class. But this is a structure. So again, dedication seals, it's very important, like motivations guiding us, you know, it guides all our practices, it guides our day. It makes the day very positive. If we start with a positive day, it flavors, it puts an essence through the whole day if we have a positive motivation. And dedication, again, it's just sealing. So every time we create a good deed, we do something positive. I mean, we can't do it every time, but at the end of the day, the end of meditation, and also at the end of the day, if we can just spend a few minutes to dedicate the goodness of the day, it seals the merits, you know, and especially if we dedicate it towards enlightenment, the prayer that we do at the end of the class here. There's a couple of prayers for enlightenment and also to develop this incredible mind-body chitta that we hear about as we go more and more through these modules. This is our potential, you know, to develop what we see. And really like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you know, he's a great bodhisattva. We've had many great bodhisattvas in this world, you know, and this is what we can accomplish, even though we feel quite ordinary right now. So each time we dedicate our virtue, that's where it'll go. That will kind of seal the seeds of our virtue to ripen in that way towards Buddhahood, towards developing this vast mind-body chitta. Any questions with that? No. So types of meditation. So again, many of us are familiar with placement meditation. Placement meditation, sometimes it's called shamatha. That's a Sanskrit term. Or the Tibetan term is shine. Or that's why I didn't want to overwhelm you with these terms. If you get more involved with these types of meditations, you will get familiar with the both terms. Or it can also be calm abiding, the mind abiding quietly, single-pointedly on an object. Here we're calling it placement meditation, just as beginners, because it just kind of emphasizes what we're doing, you know. We're placing the mind on an object or experience with the intention of becoming more familiar with it. So we did placement on an object here, but as we move into the class this week or later next week, we're going to see we can also place the mind on an experience. So it allows us, the more we become, what it allows us to do is to be able to be on the object, to settle on the object for a long time. And it does what it calms, it allows the mind to abide calmly without distraction. And that can bring a lot of mental focus and intensity to an object or an experience. So I think we can all appreciate the benefits of more concentration. Even in our day-to-day life, we all want to be more concentrated. Everybody can feel the disadvantages, the kind of discomfort of a distracted mind, you know. So I think we all kind of want more concentration. I think that's why most people go into meditation, is because they can feel the kind of mind's distracted, and we want to have more ability, more control on our mind to be able to place it where we want to place it and put it with intention and with concentration. So one of the things that this brings up as is that when we, you know, it's like, as I say, our meditation. Oh, there's a chat. Let me just see. There's a question. Oh, okay, sorry, that was answered. Sure. So one of the this is why it's very good to have what I want to mention tonight. You know, if we're very kind of serious, or we really want to develop our practice, you know, not just our sitting practice, but our, you know, understanding of the Dharma, our understanding of practice and, you know, reflection, all the different aspects that constitute, which I touched on last week, a full Dharma practice. Listening, reflection, and meditation, all those components that we need. You know, if we want to keep developing that, we do kind of have to have a teacher, you know. We have to have someone that we feel connected with and we can trust, and that can take some time, but we want to be thinking in that direction, you know. It doesn't have to be a great guru by any means, but someone who knows more than we do. Someone who's more practiced than we are and who inspires us. Because when these kind of things come up, like, you know, we think our mind's getting worse when we meditate, you know, but, you know, and then we might give up, you know, because we think, gosh, this isn't working. But actually, this is, you know, when we start to really do a sincere meditation practice, Dharma practice, not just meditating, but really listening, really doing other practices to start to develop our mind, sometimes it feels like it's getting worse. You know, but that's simply because the Dharma is like a mirror. Whether you're listening to teachings, whether you're meditating, whether you're reading it, it's like this mirror that's just showing us. The Buddha's like a mirror, you know, he's showing us suffering, you know, he's showing us like, wow, this is our mind. Not in a judgmental way, not like you're a bad person way. And that's how sometimes how we can start to feel, because it's like, wow, I didn't realize my mind was that bad. But it's because it's just, we haven't taken the time to really look, you know. So that can happen in the beginning, and then it can actually happen throughout your practice where there's a big chunk of stuff that starts to unpeel from the mind. And it feels like, oh my God, what happened here, you know? So, you know, in my case, you know, just to share, you know, I've had quite a few experiences like that. And, you know, in terms of getting sick, you know, through doing some practice, certainly when I first started to do this, I think I shared last week when I did, you know, my first ND course, I felt like my mind was berserk when we had to do 1 hour of concentration meditation without much break. It was unbelievably painful, not just physically, but mentally as well. So anyway, that's also not a great idea to start with that type of meditation for so long. But, you know, there's times when you might get sick or you might experience more mental problem. And so it's good to speak to other Sangha, if not a teacher, because it doesn't mean that you know, it's like blaming as it says here, it's like blaming the soap for cleaning the clothes, you know, but the soap just does the job of bringing the dirt out. So the Dharma brings the dirt out. You know, if you've done a good practice, it's almost like you can expect there might be something coming out. Pabonka Rinpoche, I don't want to scare anybody away either, but Pabonka Rinpoche, he's a great enlightened guru. He was the author of Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. And as we go through the course, there'll be some recommended reading for that book. And he he said that, you know, it's like when we really start to practice Dharma with intention, then it's almost like we have this big pus, this wound, and it's all pussy, you know, and it's like when you first pop it and all the pus comes out. So we had the wound for a long time and it was really painful and sore, and, you know, we just thought it would be okay and it's normal, but then we start to like maybe we start to heal it, and then we go to the doctor and they have to kind of break it or do something. And initially it's like all the pus comes out. It's almost like it's more painful. So sometimes we can experience that's like a detox. When alcoholics go into detox, in the beginning, it can be worse. And then, you know, but then when we get through that period, wow, then there's a bit of space, you know, and then there's a bit of adjustment and shift in the mind. So that's why it's very good to be around Sangha, you know, so we don't feel like we're doing the wrong thing when some of these experiences can happen. And they're actually very, very good experiences, positive experiences. So again, it says here, you know, as you scrub, the water can get dirtier. So again, we're not blaming that process. The process is what's causing this. It's bringing it out and it's working. You know, it's really good. So whether we're doing some sort of purification practice, whether we're doing some sort of, you know, whatever practice we're doing, and especially if it's something that's, you know, particular to a lineage practice or has been recommended by your teacher, it's going to be quite powerful for the mind, you know, so it might bring some difficult things up. So it's good to have Sangha or teachers or whatever to talk to and just kind of help you through the process. Like nurses, they often say Sangha like the nurses, you know, they know what's going on with you and you can talk and share with them, you know. Be guided by them and make sure you're going in the right direction. So again, also when we go through meditation, we go through different layers of our stuff, you know, our grosser negativities, our grosser delusions, and then slowly we go through into more subtle ones. But it's really a process of the heavier things need to come out first, you know, the heavier neurosis, the heavier states of mind. That's what we need to kind of touch base with first and work on those, as I mentioned last week. That's the process. So another, you know, these are just kind of advices for how do we approach our practice. So one of the things we can do, which definitely I do, have done, maybe not so much now, but very much in the beginning, you know, you get this great enthusiasm to practice and you do it really intensely, and then maybe some difficulty comes up and then we don't want to do it anymore or whatever, that can happen. So, but generally, you know, if we decide we really want to shift our mind, you know, the more we understand the, you know, the workings of the Four Noble Truths in our own experience, you know, the fact that we have got karma and delusion, we have got these suffering states in mind, and they're not, you know, they're definitely removable for the mind, as is dust for the mirror, clouds for the sky. They part, they're advantageous. But also understanding that there's a sort of far-sightedness that we have to have with our meditation. So this is the Kadampa Geshis were great, you know, great holy beings, practitioners, very ascetic, and even we would regard like Lama Yeshe, holy, and also Kyabshe Lama Zoparimshe. They were great Kadampa masters, very simple, humble practitioners. And their advice, they had this heart advice for practitioners to look far ahead, you know, always kind of feel like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing this practice. This is a light, you know, when we find the meditation, the practice, the teacher, the tradition, everything that works for us, then we think this is it. You know, this is a life practice, and we look far ahead. You know, bodhicitta, emptiness, it's there. The potential's in the mind, you know, but I have to step by step. It's like every time we do practice and meditation, it's like a drop of water in what will become the ocean of our qualities. But each one's a drop, you know, each day, each moment, each practice, that's just like putting a drop in there. And that's wonderful, because drops do start to make a bucket. They start to make a pool, and they eventually, you know, will make an ocean. They just keep growing, you know. So we have there's a huge potential that we have to develop. But, you know, we need to look far ahead for that. And also generating this kind of vast mind, or sort of brave mind, you know, to work with our stuff. You know, no matter how difficult it is. And this is where a Sangha community, and especially a teacher that inspires you, is really important, because that will give you the courage and the brave heart to work through some of the gungy stuff, you know, the difficult stuff, not to run away from it. And to not squeeze, you know, and not to be too tight with yourself. So it's not like these things are easy to do, but these are kind of, you know, what Rinpoche often advised for Westerners, to think about these a little bit more in our practice. So what I found, you know, like in the beginning, there's this kind of feeling like, you know, I want to get rid of some of my stuff, you know. When we see something, you know, we want to just get rid of it now or something. There's often an anxiety around that if there's some things really troubling us. And that's important, you know, because that can give a lot of energy. But, you know, but then what I discovered is once there was some layers of my things moved off, what starts to happen within us is a sense of contentment, a sense of not like being happy where we are, but the mind, as we pull away the layers of, you know, delusion and karma and things we need to, you know, shift off the mind, there's a general sense of inner well-being or happiness or contentment that starts to come. And on that basis, it can be a bit easier to generate these kind of three principles, thinking, well, you know, I did all this and I feel quite happy. So if I just keep going, there should be more and more happiness. If I keep doing these practices that are valid practices, that have been practiced by great yogis and saints, by my teachers, by my Dharma brothers and sisters, who obviously, you know, I can see some of them, they've had an effect for that. So there's a contentment that comes, you know, from that, but it's still, you know, and it still gives space for inspiration as well, and braveheartedness, and not to squeeze, you know. So these things all take a bit of time, but it's important to have that, because if we have too short expectation, then sometimes we don't get to that goal, and then we give up. That can happen. So again, another succinct quote for the great enlightened yogi Milarepa that we had last week or the week before. I had an image of Milarepa. He was Mila is like the cotton clad one who meditated for many years in the mountains in around the 11th, 12th century. So, I mean, we might not be entertaining hopes for realization, but it's basically, you know, it's this plan to just keep with a sort of groundedness. It's a sense of maturity that comes that no matter what, I'll just keep doing these practices because they have, after some months or whatever, I can see they're helping my mind, you know. So I just keep doing them. I just keep planting the seeds. I keep putting the drops in the, you know, in my bowl, and then it becomes a bucket, then becomes a pool. You know, I just keep putting these drops in, and slowly things grow bigger and bigger. The practice gets more and more full, you know, more and more deep, more and more feeling. So it's this kind of thing of letting go of fears and hopes and expectations. I mean, it's not easy, you know, but we're trying to do that, you know, just do the practice, take the medication, do the medicine, do the Dharma like that. And with our motivations, our dedication, just gradually developing these and maturing in that way in the practice. So another thing that we have to, you know, a little bit be careful with our meditation practice is, as it says here, some people think that, you know, the main meditation is just kind of clearing the mind, single-pointed concentration, or just kind of trying to get rid of thoughts and concepts. So, and whereas there are some meditations that are geared in that direction, but generally, it's not the only, it's not like the only type of meditation that we want to be engaged in at this level. We'll miss out, you know, we'll miss the key points if we just do one type of meditation. So also our thoughts formulate, you know, in a quiet space where we have a little bit of calm abiding. You know, it sounds juicy, doesn't it? Calm abiding. Wow. We all want to abide in calm all the time. But even when we've developed a little bit of this, when we can do 5 minutes, you know, a few minutes in the morning and just not being too caught up in thoughts, then in that place, we start to formulate what we call some sort of analytical meditation, some sort of Lam Rim topic in our mind. You know, we use some Lam Rim topic like death and impermanence, precious human rebirth, to create a sort of juice in the mind and some idea in the mind it's transforming our motivation gradually into our main goal of bodhicitta. Our main goal in this tradition is bodhicitta and emptiness. You know, so the calm abiding is it's like creating an environment to then be able to analyze some other deeper types of meditation topics that really bring about this sort of deep inner peace and happiness, and also create very positive seeds towards this great mind of bodhicitta, the great mind of the bodhisattva. So this is this is also out of Pabonka Rinpoche, Liberation in the Palm. So the danger of relying on one type of meditation is, you know, so in this case, this yogi, he was meditating some centuries ago in a cave, and somebody drew a picture of it, but this did actually happen to one yogi. He was meditating, he went in a very deep place of sort of concentration, samadhi, you know, to a point where I think he was away there for some time, and his hair grew, you know, he was in the cave, his hair grew, he didn't need to eat any food. He was nourished by that, because one can get into a place of that meditation where you're not nourished just by the bliss of the meditation, the bliss of the calm abiding. But then, you know, when he came out of his meditation, he'd been there for so long, there was all these rats that were eating his hair, and he got upset. So the moral of the story is, don't rely on one type of meditation, because yeah, it was wonderful. He could sit for hours in samadhi. He was blissed out on that. But then it wasn't enough to overcome the other delusions, you know, the delusion of anger that came up, the impatience that came up when he came out of meditation and saw the mice, you know. He got agitated by that. So it's not that we don't do that type of meditation, but it's not enough. What they say in this tradition, calm abiding are not alone, it's not enough to kind of really pacify and eliminate from the mind completely the delusions. You know, the main ones, anger, attachment, and the wrong view of self. So they support that process of eliminating them, but it can't do it alone. It doesn't have the power. So this is where we move on to, okay, so what else do we need, you know? So we want to develop some sort of calm abiding, some sort of stability and placement meditation. But alongside that, we want to develop what we call some sort of analytical analysis meditation. So that's actually using our thoughts, directing our thoughts to a certain topic or subject to transform them into that topic or subject. Oh, I think we don't need that one again. So again, just before we go on to that, this is where we're, you know, again, mentioning these three types of wisdom that are the kind of, you know, the totality of our Dharma practice. Wisdom through hearing teachings. We need to hear in order to be able to know how to reflect on the teaching. What to reflect on, how to reflect on it. You know, we need many different instructions. We need to receive that through hearing teachings. And especially when you hear them in the presence of a holy being, you know, like, you know, if you have the good fortune to go to teachings with a master, you know, a great master, I mean, it's incredible the power of their words, how it can transform your mind, you know, and have a deeper impact. The words have a deeper impact on your mind. So there's many, many benefits to hearing, and especially in the presence of a holy being, you know, because their speech has a power to affect our mind in a different way. At the time of the Buddha, you know, when he first achieved enlightenment, he wasn't sure if he was going to teach. And then these kind of deities or goddesses, gods, not for the human realm, but the worldly sort of godly realm, came down and requested him to teach and said there will be beings in this realm, in this human realm, who can hear and will benefit and gain, you know, accomplishments or realizations. So please teach, you know. So he requested them to teach. Because typically anyway, in this tradition, one doesn't teach unless one is asked to, you know, and that came from the tradition of the Buddha not just immediately teaching, but only when he was requested to teach, he accepted, you know. So we carry that tradition forward in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, where teachers generally don't, you know, as we know in Buddhism, we don't go out there and shout on the corners and give out handbooks, you know, or texts, you know, on the teachings. We wait till we're asked. And there's a lot of wisdom in that as well, you know, because then when one asks, one's open to receive. So anyway, at the time of the Buddha, you know, there was actually a lot of beings who, when the Buddha he went first to teach in Sarnath, it's near Varanasi, and he taught these 5 ascetic disciples who he was practicing with previously. He went there and his first teaching was on the Four Noble Truths, and actually we celebrate there's four special days in the Buddha's life that we celebrate each year, and one of them is when he first taught the Wheel of Dharma, the first turning of the Wheel of Dharma, the first teaching he gave after he achieved enlightenment, and that was given in Sarna in India, place near Varanasi, and he gave it to his 5 disciples, ascetics, who had been practicing me previously, and he abandoned that ascetic practice, feeling it was too extreme, and went off to meditate on his own, found the middle way, and then taught these 4 Noble Truths to the 5 ascetics. And I don't know if all of them, but at least 2 or 3 of them, just by hearing the 4 Noble Truths, they got realizations. They became what we call arhats. So that's how much hearing, you know, if we have very, very good karma, we can hear something and a deep insight can come just by hearing. Then reflecting is where this type of meditation comes in, this analytical type. So even though it's really more in the realm of meditating, but it can be also at our level in the form of the way of reflecting, really. We're sort of mulling over, we're thinking about in a sort of deeper way the topic that we're in, you know, precious human rebirth or bodhicitta or, you know, loving kindness. So this is where this wisdom of reflecting comes in, because the more we develop that, then again, when we're sitting in our analytical meditation, it can come very deep, you know, we can get a deep experience through just that reflection. So my great teacher, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, used to love using animals to, he had a lot of furry, cuddly toys. He would write Dharma, some of us know already. Rinpoche would write on cuddly toys, lots of mantras and, you know, Dharma sayings, Dharma quotes, and give to students, you know, and he would often send students like beautiful, you know, cuddly toys or use, you know, animal pictures. Rinpoche loved this, you know, so I thought this was a bit of an expression of how you know, how Rinpoche sort of taught or guided us, you know. So how do, you know, combining analytical and concentration meditation, because this is what we really want to do, you know, we don't want to have them, they're not sort of single standalone meditations. They are in one respect, but eventually what we want to try and do is combine them together. So what this is showing, you know, the animals here is showing like, it's almost like the little grey kitten is support for the black kitten. Yeah, the black kitten's wanting to get over the wall. So like us, we want to get over the hump or the wall of our delusions, you know. So to do that, as a basis, we need the concentration meditation. We could say here, you know, the little grey one signifies concentration because he's supporting the analytical meditation, which really does get us over the hump of samsara, you know, it gets us out of our karma or delusion, you know, and that's the main place we want to go. But we can use these two meditations for many, many different topics, you know. So it's just kind of showing that they're like the two brothers, you know, two friends. Analytical and concentration are like our two friends, you know, our two hands. We need to use both to, you know, start to move through, transform our motivation, transform our life, deepen whatever topic or practice we're trying to develop in our mind. So again, here, the stronger, you know, if we have quite strong concentration, then our insight, our reflective or analytical meditation will go a bit more deeply. It'll settle more deeply into the mind. You know, if we have left distraction, we'll feel it more deeply. And again, it's all, this is the whole thing is about becoming familiar, you know, gaining a familiarity with, you know, gradually building up our concentration and gradually building up our, you know, analysis on certain topics. So again, it's like these two friends, you know, they're friends, they're supporting each other. They need to work together to to reach a goal, you know, to support each other on the path. You know, they're supports for each other. They're not standalone meditations, really. You know, we need both. So again, for combining analytical and concentration meditation. So what happens is it's, you know, so maybe we've done, you know, 5-10 minutes of concentration, mind feels a bit more settled. So then we're going to do this type of meditation, start with that next week. And some of you might be familiar with how to do this, but basically how it works is we start with, you know, 9-round breathing, and then we may, you know, have our motivation, and then we maybe say, okay, I'm going to do 5 minutes of concentration or 10 minutes of concentration or 2 5-minute sessions, you know. So even through the power of doing that, just again, bringing the mind back to the object again and again, even though the mind's wandering a lot, there will be a sense of the mind being more calm, a little bit more calm and spacious after that. And then in that place, what we do is that we try to think about, you know, a topic like precious human rebirth, how precious our human life is, or how fragile life is. That's a topic on death and impermanence. That's another second topic in the Lam Rim. Or, you know, the dangers, the faults of anger, you know, how it really harms the mind, getting a feeling for that. But again, through some analysis, using some quotes, some reasoning, something we've read, we read it. And then if a feeling comes on that topic, like, for example, precious human rebirth, if we start to feel like, wow, I'm so fortunate. Well, you know, it's like you feel like you've won $1 billion. If you meditate well on precious human rebirth, you feel like someone who's just been told they've won the lottery. That's a feeling that should come. Now, it takes a bit of work to get that experience, but that's kind of what it is. It's this like incredible joy, you know, like I'm so happy, I'm so fortunate. So, you know, if we get that feeling, then we don't keep reading and everything. We just sit in that space of like, wow, I'm so fortunate. We use the concentration to focus again and focus on that feeling. We're not on the breath, but we're on the feeling, the joy, the happiness, that kind of, wow. Because imagine if you woke up one morning and you got something through the mail, or you opened up your email, something about that lottery ticket you just won, it's just come up and you've won, like, you know, I mean, even if you'd won 50 grand, never mind like $1 million. I mean, there's a sense of like joy that just comes. So that's the outcome of meditating on precious human rebirth. That's how we would feel, but it takes, you know, it takes a while to get that feeling. We might not just open up something and read a quote and there you go. You know, we have to analyze from all directions. And with the, you know, the support of calm abiding, when a feeling comes of joy, of happiness, of feeling fortunate, then we place our mind on that because we're familiar with placing our mind on an object. But the object would be the feeling, the experience that comes in the mind through that analysis. Does that make sense? Are we, some of us know this already, but have any of us practiced this before? Had some success with that, some experience? Where are we? Urs? You want to share anything? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I think that's the textbook example how you should do it, right? But in practice, it's harder.
Yeah, it's hard. But, you know, we're not even looking at, you know, long, like sitting for long periods in that state. We're talking about just an instant of a feeling, a
Right.
happiness, you know, and we can get that when we hear a teaching, you know, and then all of a sudden just a word hits you at a time you didn't think that. And it's like, wow, my life is so, you know, precious, you know, something just hits you. And then what you do is you just try and absorb that. It's like, whoa, absorb. Let it go in. Allow it to make you happy. Allow it to affect your mind, you know, because sometimes these experiences come when we're not trying, isn't it? But the thing is, without the effort before, you know, you might be meditating for ages and you've done some concentration and analysis and you've been thinking about precious human rebirth for a while. And then all of a sudden you might get off your cushion and you hear something and you see something and, oh, wow, it kind of brought that feeling of, gosh, my life is so precious, you know. And what you do is you just allow that to soak in, as it says here, allow yourself to feel it, you know, because the nature of mind is pure happiness and pure joy, you know. It's just that it's a bit covered right now. It's not functioning like day in, day out, 24 hours a day. But, you know, so the thing is with this, again, it's all about this familiarity of just doing the stuff, doing the practice, getting to the job. And then all of a sudden, when you're least expecting it, whether it's on your cushion or off your cushion, a feeling of that insight might just come, you know, it might be very momentary, but however momentary it is, then you just absorb, soak, enjoy. And then it'll pass, you know, because also if we try to hold on to it, you get loon. You get stress and anxiety if we try to hold on to our meditation experiences, but they will come. And because we're making our mind familiar, you know, so it will happen, it will come. Next. So, so the main kind of goal for analytical meditation is to cut through. You know, this is where we really need them together. Sometimes it's called, I'll just use the Sanskrit terms, you know, because you know, the more you hear the Dharma, the more these will drop in and feel familiar. It's this combination of Vipassana and Shamatha, you know, being able to settle the mind more and more, calm abiding, and then using that space to analyze or look at how we kind of cling to the wrong view of self, you know, and again, that's an analytical meditation that we need to do, you know, trying to find within ourselves. So the more we sort of purify and do other types of meditations, we try to sort of see how this view of ignorance is working in our mind, you know, how we're clinging to an I that's not quite correct, you know, it's a wrong and mistaken view of self. So to really get into that type of meditation, to really get some progress from this, certainly from the sutra view, we need to develop these kind of, you know, a little bit experience in both the concentration, placement, alongside and analysing, you know, being able to look inside and use some sort of reasoning, some sort of type of meditation to sort of even like convince ourselves that the I doesn't exist the way that appears. We're using our wisdom. This is Manjushri. He is the embodiment of wisdom, the wisdom of all the Buddhas. The sword he holds is the sword that cuts through our wrong view self, you know, the ignorance grasping at the wrong view self, which is the root of all the other bundles of stuff that kind of inhabit our minds right now, you know. So this is, you know, kind of the sort of ultimate goal is to kind of grasp and gather this. What he's holding in the other, on the lotus there is the Prajnaparamita text, the teachings on wisdom. So, I mean, even in you know, even in these practices, it says just by looking and gazing upon these holy beings, these holy images, it creates this kind of impression in our mind to be able to develop the wisdom of Manjushri, you know, to awaken that wisdom that allows us to see our true nature, basically. It allows us to see, you know, a right view. It's not that we don't exist at all, but we don't exist the way we appear. So that's the kind of ultimate goal of analytical meditation combined with concentration, to use these two together to get to this key point, you know, of how we exist, you know, how we exist, how others exist. And that's where the deep peace really comes. That's where the space really comes. And that's where we don't make the mistake, like the other yogi there, of just doing one meditation and not quite getting to the bottom of the delusions, you know, getting to the bottom or the root of our stuff. So we use both types of meditation for that. So another way, you know, that's the wisdom aspect, you know, that cuts through the self-grasping. So as we listen to the teachers again and again, teachings again and again, familiarity, we have to keep listening, reflecting, meditating. And then all of a sudden, terms that were unfamiliar become very familiar. And then all of a sudden, terms that were unfamiliar, we're even able to talk about. We're even able to, you know, teach others about, just through this power of familiarity, you know, and through the power of our own meditation and practice. So another way that analytical meditation softens our heart, you know, because we can use calm abiding combined with some analysis to develop incredible states of mind, you know, like the 4 immeasurables. You know, if we can, you know, the 4 immeasurables are in most basic meditation practices. They always come at the beginning, whatever. If you're doing a sort of sadhana, you know, like Shakyamuni Buddha or Tara or Chenrezig, there's always the presence here of the 4 immeasurables. There's always at least a line where we want to try and reflect a bit on immeasurable equanimity, immeasurable love, immeasurable joy, immeasurable, what's the other one? Joy, equanimity, love, and compassion. So if we combine the kind of strength of concentration with those thoughts, you know, with these analysis, thoughts, feelings, we can also analyze them a little bit, think about them a bit. Then again, the experience of immeasurable love can come a little bit in our hearts, immeasurable equanimity. So we use both to develop our bodhicitta practice, our practice to open the heart. So again, that all sounds very lovely, what Lama Yeshe says. So, but yeah, then here we are, you know. So of course, Lama Yeshe, there is an immeasurable, it's true, we do have that, you know, that's what Lama says, and it's important to connect with that. That's our ultimate nature. But how we develop it is through these 2 types of meditation. Because then what I feel is then when I look at these, you know, especially the one practicing compassion, even if no one else does, that's quite hard, eh? I mean, it's enough to practice it when others do, but when no one else does, it's not very easy, is it? So this is why, you know, this is kind of, some of these Dharma sayings show us where we fall short, you know. Where do we need to practice? Because in this situations, it's not easy, you know. So this is then where the work needs to be done, you know. When someone doesn't love me, can I train my mind? Well, we can, you know. And, you know, we train our mind to be able to love them back, you know. So, because this is the other obstacle. So the obstacle to understanding emptiness, realizing emptiness, is self-grasping. And the obstacle to realizing bodhicitta is what we call self-cherishing. You know, how we have this kind of, did I have this in the other? No, I don't have it there. So how we tend to, I think it's at the top there, we have a sort of preoccupation with ourselves, even though we can be quite kind and good-hearted. Definitely I have. I don't know about all you, but we have a preoccupation with ourselves and our needs and our wants and everything. To a level, that's okay. But when we see the example, great bodhisattvas who have developed bodhicitta, they don't have it at all, but they're sitting in, like, they have this incredible joy, as we see in Lama Yeshe, you know. They just have this endless joy, and it's an endless thinking of others. So that's kind of where we want to go. And how we go is through these two types of meditation. You know, developing them both at the same time, concentration and an analysis or thought training the mind in certain thoughts and verses and quotes to get to this place where more loving, you know, even a deeper love for not just friends, but family, people who don't love us, starts to open up in our hearts and minds. So that's really it in terms of covering this week. The two main sort of types of meditation, particularly in sutra, you know, that we use. And so next week we will do a meditation at the beginning, combining both a little bit. As Muir said, it's not easy. We don't have deep levels of concentration, but how generally can we bring in a little bit of both concentration and analysis into meditation? Now, of course, some of you may be doing that already, but maybe there'll be a bit more you can learn from that, or just inspiring you to do a little bit more of that. And as we go through the modules in DB, there will be much more analytical meditation, a lot more analytical meditations as we go through different topics in the Lam Room. Again, I think most of the evening's quite straightforward, probably for most of you, but this is the kind of topic of this course. So just for many of us might be some reminder of what we need to do, how we need to formulate our daily practice or enhance our daily practice. And as it said, so is there any maybe one quick question or comment before we finish tonight, and then I'll just do the dedications? Not so much this week, chat, yeah. I know it's already getting a little bit late.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
It's winding back a bit to one of the slides, but I'd like to express my gratitude to the man who ended up with rats in his hair, because that experience has filtered down to us who are have incarnated in this timeline, so that if we choose, we don't have to make that mistake. So I think he's done performed a great service to others.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Yeah. So let's just so we don't finish too much over time. We will just take a moment to gather all the positive energy. So feel like whatever we've done tonight, wherever we may be able to listen, with our motivation, with our meditation, and wisdom through listening, you know, with it just sitting here, there'll be some kind of wisdom flowing through, some kind of reflection. So just gathering that all in and just dedicating it all towards our own and others' enlightenment, our own and others' development of this precious mind of bodhicitta, And also the long life for His Holiness and other great holy beings who preserve the holy Dharma, you know, embody all these teachings. Lama Sangye Drugyurne Droba Jigyamalupa Deye Sala Gobar Shojanju Sencho Rinpoche Mage Banam Yegyurshik Yeba Nyamba Mebai Gone Gondu Pelwar Shog. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and may all your holy wishes be fulfilled. Okay, thank you so much for joining. And as I say, next week, if you're able to just carry on with your meditations or bring in a little bit more, I'm going to send a couple of meditations through to Isabella to send on to you for this week. If you want to add them at all or read through them, that would be wonderful. Can I just check how many of you are planning to do the test?
Test.
Let me see. There's a test, there's an exam at the end. So that's 1, 2. Not everybody's got their camera. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Oh, how many? Oh, Isabella can see, yeah. 5? 5 at the moment, yeah. Okay. And okay, good. Great. And just so I get an idea who's doing the test. And but anyway, if you can, I'll send a couple of meditations through to Isabella. So if you're able to add them into your meditation and test them out a little bit for next week, that would be wonderful. And looks like, I know if some of you need to go, don't worry, but there's another couple of, is there any chat? Not thank you. There's no questions. Oh yeah, that one about the mantra. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great week and we'll see you again. Hopefully.
Thank you, Angie.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Angie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.